And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So today is June the 3rd, 2023 on a Saturday evening, a late evening at that, due to personal commitments and whatnots. What can one do? But anyway, we're here now tonight, to discuss some interesting things that's been going on this past week or so, none more so than our first one, which is Mr. Elon Musk visits China to see the status of his company, Tesla, if it's doing well or should be concerned with rise of competition in that particular region, or is it just a typical visit for any CEO in Asia here? So we'll take a look at that. Next is we'll be discussing the dangers of artificial intelligence. How concerned should we be? Is this a precursor of what things to look like, similar to how films has portrayed the improvement or development of AI technology? We'll take a look at that. And again, a company in the United States, a dental company, was held for ransom by a hacker, and which is been discussing it, reporting some of the cases far and wide, whether here locally, domestically, or even in other nations. Hacking has been a common trend for generating, obviously, large sums of money if companies are not willing to pay a pretty amount of money. So, what happens here? What's to be done about this one? And for some local news, lo and behold, I was surprised to find out that our government sought it that it made sense that if they've shown any good track record of managing the finances, or the money of the country, to create their own Maharlika investment fund that would benefit us. I'm very pessimistic about this, and how come it was approved, and who's going to actually eventually benefit from this one? Is it for the vast majority or only a small subset here? So we'll take a look. And lastly, stay tuned for the last part if you're interested in buying your or buying a new television set, or owning a new television set, or upgrading one. What's the best TV to consider for the year 2023? So we'll discuss that as well. Anyway, as mentioned, Elon Musk has visited, or recently visited, in China, checking the status of his Tesla company, his Gigafactory. I think it's in Shanghai. I think I could be wrong. To see how it's doing well. Obviously, the rise in popularity of electric vehicles has risen to significant proportions that other companies, worldwide car manufacturers, has seen the benefit of capitalizing on this trend. Anyway, let's take a look at this article. According to techtimes.com, Elon Musk gets the royal treatment in China during business trip. He's now called Brother Ma, pertaining to Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba. Anyway, according to the article here, Elon Musk's business trip to China is making huge headlines, which is why we're discussing it tonight or today. He arrived recently on Tuesday, on May 30th, landing in Beijing. The CEO met with the Chinese Foreign Minister Gang. They discussed the plans of Elon Musk to further expand Tesla's business in China, and he is again decoupling, meaning separating, right? This just shows that China and Elon Musk have a great relationship. Well, it depends on which perspective you're looking at. Obviously, to Elon Musk, he wants to conquer the market share worldwide, not just in the United States or in Americas, in Asia as well as in Europe. But obviously, stiff competition has risen over the past few years because of its popularity, no thanks to Tesla, but also in China, where several companies are trying to compete, creating their own electric vehicles. Will Tesla still remain at the top? Only time can tell here. It also mentions here that many top ministers from Chinese government industry, commerce, and foreign departments greeted the billionaire. So it just shows you the how popular, valuable Mr. Elon Musk company in China is today. He's a highly valued individual in China, obviously, receiving a five-star welcome comparable to how Jack Ma, Alibaba's group's co-founder, is treated here. And even residents were excited about the arrival of Elon. They even conducted a survey on Weibo to see which food is the best one to be served to the billionaire. So it just goes to show, the marketing hype of how popular Mr. Elon Musk is, regardless of the controversy that he's been involved with his many plethora companies, is still good for him, regardless. Now, what's the purpose of Mr. Elon Musk's trip? Should it be considered a big deal? Obviously, with the current conflict between two neighboring nations from China as well as in the United States and battling for top supremacy in terms of the tech industry. It's considered a high profile affair. It mentions that Elon Musk predicted that demand for his Tesla bot could reach over 20 billion units. And he also mentions that he plans to share the Tesla codes with other car manufacturers, which is pretty interesting. So one would think that one would be more secretive or close to the vest in terms of not sharing too much information, especially the Tesla codes that obviously many companies are trying to covet or trying to replicate here. But hopefully, he does well in terms of its trip, and hopefully the problems that Tesla is encountering in other regions in terms of market share, drop in price, drop in demand, has got nothing to do with the rise of competition with other car manufacturers, and it's just a cycle with with any growth in the business, especially that Tesla is only been in the market for a few decades comparing to the other major manufacturers who's been in the industry for far longer than they are. So we'll see if they're able to keep up or stay in the game and even grow significantly in the next few years or decades as well. We'll see. Anyway, segueing now to technology still, there's discussion that with the development of artificial intelligence or AI, with chat gpt, the application is can only be the start of something significant. The main applications not just for individuals but for businesses alike. So there are rising concerns of similar akin to rise of the machines in the films like in Terminator, of what what can possibly go wrong if left unchecked here. Should those concerns be merited? Let's take a look at this article. According to TechSpa.com, experts and CEOs are warning of extinction risk posed by AI. Compare dangers to nuclear war. Now, obviously, if you rely so much on technology, or in this case, AI, anything is possible here if left unchecked here. And obviously, automating certain aspects of the processes, whether it's business processes, uh, telecommunications, and whatnot, seems idea at the onset, but what are the long-term ramifications? But obviously, it's hard to predict what the future would look like. But obviously, the concerns are posted here are not to be neglected, to say the least. Mentions here that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority, but obviously different countries, different regions have different priorities, and AI may not be at the top of it, especially here at a developing country here like in the Philippines. Poverty is still a problem. Solving social issues is a common staples here, and thinking of AI adoption technology is far from our reach. The fact that digital transformation is one of the main steps that we still have to hurdle, and we're still far from even attempting or reaching the other nations who have access or have started developing their AI capabilities here. But anyway, continuing with this article, it mentions that the worryingly titled AI extinction statement from the Center of AI Safety, or CAIS, is signed by CEOs from top AI labs: Altman, Google DeepMinds, Demis Hassabis, and Anthropic's Dario Amodei. Other signatories include authors of deep learning and AI textbooks, Turing Awards winners such as Geoffrey Hinton, executives from top tech companies, scientists, professors, and many more. And obviously, one of the main statements that they mention here is mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside with societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. Or obviously, with any new development that could impact globally, should be taken seriously and should be taken a look at, and trying to better understand how is this going to benefit us in the long run, whether individually or for many businesses who's trying to capitalize on its popularity and of its limitless possibility moving forward. And it's akin to when the nuclear bomb was invented decades back. Obviously, at the height of World War II at that, were having supreme power, lethal power, or lethal weapons that could decimate any nations, and in this case, if left unchecked, could you know cause an extinction level problem for the human race here. And obviously now with the rise of technology, now with AI, those growing concerns are warranted here. It mentions here some of the AI risks listed by Kais include perpetuating bias, powering autonomous weapons. Yeah, I think that's already partly happening because in commercial applications, powering autonomous vehicles, like what Tesla is doing here, is already being seen left and right. Promoting misinformation, yeah, providing fake news or popular deep fakes. You don't even know now whether the person in front of you that's speaking is the actual person or is it someone imitating another person. And then the proliferation of conducting cyber attack, which is has been going on now for quite some time. And the sad thing here is it's going to get worse before it gets any better, because obviously the cyber attacks are trying to take advantage of vulnerabilities of individuals and organizations that are not protecting themselves. So it's not just a physical protection of your organization or your individuality, but obviously the cyberspace that many of us are interacting with other people nowadays here. It mentions here that as AI becomes more advanced, which is the natural flow of things, it could pose catastrophic or existential risk here. Now, I'm not more on the negative aspect here, but obviously, if worst gets to worst, if left unchecked, could really severely hamper the way of life, of akin what happens to in films like one of the popular films that's mentioned here is Wall-E, because of uh, what do you call this, because of not taking care of the planet, greed, and warring among nations, identity politics, and the fact that they have to go out to outer space and find other planets to habituate, you know can be disastrous. And obviously, going back to the film of Terminator, which spells doom and gloom because of the hubris of humans thinking that they know everything, which we do not. That's why you have to better understand things as we move forward. But as we do any other technology, two step forward, one step backwards, is always the case here. Now, according to Kai's director Dan Hendricks, the world has successfully cooperated to mitigate risks related to nuclear war, which obviously is a global effort here. Now, the same level of effort is needed to address the dangers posed by future AI system. Now, Obviously, we still don't know what the possible future would look like, but obviously, as you can see, slowly but surely, many application, many businesses is slowly integrating many artificial intelligence systems or applications here, whether for day-to-day tasks to more mundane to more advanced, more dangerous, more critical stuff that humans tend to rely on a daily basis. So it's not just those involved in AI who fear where the technology could lead. Over two-thirds of Americans believe it could threaten civilization, even though most US adults have never used ChatGPT. Yeah, that's the problem here. But obviously, technology will continue to evolve. Obviously, you need the government to keep an eye on the development of those technology and how it's being used, or otherwise, it could go to the wrong hands, and whoever the wrong hands are, could spell the doom and gloom that they are envisioning here. But obviously, we're still at the early stages, I'd like to think. But as you can see, they're making leaps and bounds already in terms of its application, that everyday people can use certain aspects of AI technology like ChatGPT, as mentioned here. And as you can see, many other companies are following suit. And it's not far off that, you could use ChatGPT. Let's say you're driving a car, you're lost, you're asking ChatGPT instead of Waze or Google Maps to direct you to your destination. You will ask ChatGPT to calculate how to avoid traffic if there's any accidents to get to your destination in a shortest possible manner. That's just one of the many applications. Then, if you start from there, you can bring it to your home, similar to what Alexa is doing, and home AIs or Siri for Apple. It's fully integrated already, which seems ideal, or not as ideal, but exciting. But obviously, you need a lot of resources to be able to do those. What we see in the films, like in Star Trek, where you just ask a command or state a command with the computer, and it will be able to do complex stuff already. Who knows? But we'll see. You can't be afraid of innovation, because it will lead to better, hopefully for a better life, not a worse life here. Anyway, segueing still to technology, where cybersecurity, cyber attacks has been ramping up. Not necessarily ramping up, but has been commonplace nowadays, which is concerning, especially for big businesses, and none more so than the one that's recently happened, where 9 million patients were exposed, wherein a US dental insurance giant company was recently hijacked with a ransomware attack here. We're talking of America's largest dental health insurers here. Let's see. What's the name of the company? Let's take a look. Yes, it's Atlanta-based Managed Care of North America, or MCNA. So the dental claims to be the largest dental insurer in the nation for government-sponsored plans covering children and seniors. Now, the company said it became aware of a certain activity in our computer system that happened without our permission, and later learned that the hacker was able to see and take copies of some information in our computer system, which is concerning, that the fact that they're able to get your information, personal information at that, and could be held ransom, could be sold to the highest bidder for whatever purposes may be, whether it's for marketing or nefarious purposes. And this happened between February 26 to March 7. So it didn't just happen for one day, and it happened for several days, which is kind of disconcerting to say the least, because of sometimes the hacking has already been happening, and you're not even aware of it, especially for such big organizations like the managed care of North America here. Now, the information that was stolen here includes troves of patients' personal data, which is not good. You have the names, addresses, birth dates, phone numbers, email addresses, even social security numbers, and driver's license of other government issued ID number, which is, that's the holy grail already. If you're able to access that, meaning You could do phishing scams here, directing to those individuals since you have their personal details already, which is, how do you combat that? And obviously you have to be vigilant if you're the individual, regardless of circumstances, to not trust anything that comes your way unless you can verify the information that's being presented to you. It mentions here that in some cases, some of this data pertain to patients, parents, guardians, or guarantors here, and suggesting that children's personal data was accessed also during the breach, which is, it's one thing for adults' information to be shared. It's even children's information is being accessed here. According to the data breach notification, with Maine's Attorney General, the hack affected more than almost 8.9 million clients. That's pretty significant, which is, you don't know sometimes what to do about it. I mean, have they done everything to protect themselves from breaches such as this one? And this makes the incident the largest breach of health information of 2023 so far. And you know, and there's going to be more attempts happening here. As question is, how protected is the information from any organization, whether it's the government or private institutions here, which is, and one of the interesting here is a ransomware group by the name of Lockbit took responsibility for the cyber attacks, claims to have published all of the files it exfiltrated from and MCNA Dental after the company refused to pay $10 million. So obviously it's all about the money here, and if you don't pay up, you lose credibility now, and what's to be happen about it. And again, at the end of the day, the losers here are the individuals who have entrusted their information to those organizations, which is sometimes, I'm apprehensive now giving my personal information, knowing that this is a big possibility and they could use it against me for some reason. Obviously, I'm a unknown individual, but imagine this for other people who have a lot more at stake with their personal, professional careers as such here. Anyway, segueing now to a local story wherein, you know, our government here in the Philippines have seen it that they can do a better job of creating a fund that they can grow, invest it properly, so that the country can benefit. Have they provided any evidence that they have a good track record of managing our finances, let alone using appropriation of actual budget for its intended use here? And when I saw this article, I was pretty surprised that, or not necessarily surprised that it was approved, but the fact that they thought that they could do a better job than other individuals or privates in the private sectors of investing the money of the citizen, and to make it grow to what ends, and who's going to oversee here, and who's going to be culpable if that's the case here. Anyway, according to Rappler.com, the Marcos Allied Congress okays the final version of the Maharlika Bill, or the Maharlika Investment Fund, that they call it here. So the House agrees to adopt the Senate version of the Maharlika Bill, as mentioned. So the two chambers of Congress on Wednesday separately approved the final version of the proposed Sovereign Wealth Fund, and now only needs President Marcos Jr.'s signature before it becomes law. So the Senate first ratified the bicameral conference that reconciled clashing provisions of the Maharlika Investment Fund, or MIF, bills that had hurdled their respective chambers. Now, according to the 5th District Representative Erdwin Tieng, on behalf of the congressman, we accept the Senate's revision in principle, subject to style. But there's a lot of controversial message was passed amid loud opposition from critics who cited corruption and investment risk. And the keyword here, corruption and investment risk, because how are they going to prove that they have a track record of being able to avoid those pitfalls of being tempted to steal the country's wealth, and be able to grow and invest those actual money to something more beneficial to society, and the fact that we have economic challenges, that that's persisting. We have other more bigger issues that we need to tackle, basic needs that needs to be addressed first before traversing other aspects here. Now, what's interesting here, it mentions that there was near unanimous support, which is kind of sad, meaning the House approved it. It's called House Bill number 6608, December, a record speed of only 7 days after the measure was introduced in chamber. So did they really thought about those the plans that they needed to do? What are the concerns here, and who's going to safeguard those precautions so that the money does not get stolen? Because it's not as if other agencies were able to manage their own budget that was supposed to be earmarked for, let's say, for pensioners, for government projects that should benefit the society here. Anyway, the proposal faced intense scrutiny in the Senate when it began to tackle the bill back in February, but the chamber's supermajority bloc obviously ultimately delivered the votes after a marathon plenary session that resulted in the passage of the Senate Bill number 2020 past 2 a.m. in Wednesday back in May. Hours later, representatives from both chambers met in Makati to discuss contrasting provisions of the bills. With time running out, the House bill adopted the Senate's version, but regardless of why they allow this, maybe they have their own personal interest here. But it mentions here that the Maharlika Investment Fund sorry, proposed wealth fund that will be used by the government to invest in key sectors like domestic and foreign corporate bonds. Why are we focusing on investing something since we are not even using the allocated resource that we have, the budget that is earmarked every year that's supposed to be used for different projects that should help uh, you know improve the life of every citizen? And then they go on to going to invest on commercial real estate infrastructure projects to help fund the country's priority programs. I don't know, I'm very pessimistic here, but what they're mentioning here, caving in to critics, as mentioned here, outcry. Proponents amended the bill to explicitly prohibit the Social Security System, or SSS, Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, and the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, or PHIC, and the Pag-ibig, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. You have the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office and the Home Development Mutual Fund from investing in the MIF, whether on mandatory or voluntary basis. And it mentions here a major feature of the Senate version is that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will contribute 100% of its remittances during the first and second year of Maharlika funds and establishment, rather than being required to continue remitting its dividends until the national government's 50 billion contribution is fully paid up. So they're going to start up with 50 billion, right? Instead of using it to actual projects that we need it, we're going to start investing on many things that I have a stinking feeling that it may not be go as planned, and investing on bogus projects, on bogus investments that's going to benefit a small subset of people rather than the majority here. And the goal here is to limit the impact of BSP's capital buildup here. Investments from these agencies were a major concern for some lawmakers and pensioners, which should be, but the proposed Maharlika Fund has sparked public outcry from pensioners and faced legal challenge before the Supreme Court. Critics question the timing of the bill as there are more pressing issues, as mentioned earlier, that needs to be addressed. The seed capital of the MIF will come from the Land Bank of the Philippines, which amounts to 50 billion. You have DBP, amounts to 25 billion, and the national government another 50 billion here. So that's amounting to 125. Land Bank and DBP will fully pay for their contribution upon the creation of the fund, while the government's 50 billion is only subscribed, which means they can pay anytime. When is that? We don't know. Let's see who's going to safeguard the what do you call this? Who's going to safeguard the investment fund here? It mentions here that the MIC will be led by 9 members of board of directors. The board of has the power to direct, manage, and operation and administration of the MIC, which is concerning because you give a certain number of people the power to direct. They could misappropriate, in this case, the fund in total here. As you can see here, who's the chairperson? It's the finance secretary. Then you have the chief executive officer of the MIC, vice chairperson with a 3-year term. But the question is, the finance secretary, is that on a discretion of the president who will sit at the chairperson position, or is it there has to be a limit of the term? Otherwise, one could be tempted to, if they were to do nefarious stuff or misappropriate, should be held accountable here. But there are other participants here also. So aside from the chief executive officer of MIC, you also have the president of Land Bank, you have the president of DPP, and two regular directors on a 3-year term. Which I think limited term should be important so that no one or group of people will have direct control of the entirety. But the problem here is the continuity of the fund will be the key issue here. Obviously, having long-term objectives for any fund, you need to make sure that the direction, whether from the predecessor to the current one moving forward, will be on the same path. Because if they were to keep on changing the path or the investments here, then that could derail the main objective, which is to grow the fund significantly. That would benefit the majority. And then lastly, they have 3 independent directors from the private sector on a 1-year term. I think I don't know if the finance secretary is appointed by the president, but I think there should be a limited term also that would be applicable to all. And maybe should be similar to the vice chairman or chairperson on a 3-year term as well, so that they can work in tandem. Unless they do a terrible job, if they have to resign, then we'll see here. But it's pretty elaborate that they were able to approve this quickly. And question is, how is it going to pan out? Only time will tell, because unless they can provide evidence that what they're doing here can actually benefit in the long run, like let's say in countries like in, I think, is it Sweden, where they is it Nether, I forget which European country, but like in Singapore, where they they save those funds so that they can invest in uh, uh, other other funds, so that they can grow, that they can benefit that could fund other projects that the country is trying to achieve, whether it's infrastructure project or growing, buying real estate and whatnot here, that would benefit the country in the long run here. I could be wrong, but obviously pessimism is always attached if it's dealing with our government here, because obviously the track record is what's lacking here, and they haven't proven, to my knowledge, that the investments that they made has bear fruit, let alone the current budget of each year that they say that they're going to allocate certain amount for certain infrastructure, and yet the infrastructure is, it's either incomplete, lackluster, or subpar in terms of quality here. Anyway, for our last topic, politics took over the world. Yeah, it's a hit and miss. Yeah, only in the Philippines were inverse innovation pushing hard on the limits and testing boundaries to where they can get out of the most of its people welfare. Yeah, and harder. Okay, that's why I'm very passionate about this when talking about this. And obviously, in terms of investment, it's better to get the private sector to do this type of job, because they're in it to make money and not to steal money, because you're getting paid here. And obviously, in public service, your role is to serve the people, not serve yourself. That's my point anyway. That's how it should be. That's why, yeah, it's very difficult. It's hard to swallow in terms of what's happening and what might look like in the future. And you can just imagine, hundreds of billions of pesos is going to be earmarked for this investment. And if it's mismanaged properly, they could have been used to build more hospitals, more schools, increase the salary of our professionals here, whether it's the teachers, the firefighters, the policemen. A lot of things could have been used in more productive manner, so that it could uplift, benefit our society, so that we don't have to worry about, if our city is safe during at night. Are we confident in our professions, that they can do their job, instead of our professionals leaving the country. They will be excited to stay here, and be proud to be a Filipino, that because our people are being taken care of, and it should be the top priority, not the other way around. But it is what it is. So that's why we need to have a discussion to ensure that those issues are brought up, so that it could be rectified, and hopefully changes will occur, and whether it's drastic change that needs to occur, or gradual change, I don't know which is the better approach here. But anyway, as mentioned for our last topic, if you're interested for buying a new television set, or maybe you're considering upgrading your television set, whether it's an old one. Actually, I still have my 32-inch Panasonic TV, which is not a very thin one; it's a very thick one. But compared to even way back in the 70s, where the our entire television set used to be, that looks like a cabinet that you have to open, like a cabinet door, and it's black and white at the time, wherein you change the channel, you have to twist the knob, and it only had, I think, 13 channels, I think. Yeah, 13 numbers, from ABS-CBN all the way to IBC 13. That's the maximum that you used to do. But now you can have hundreds of channels here. But what's the best channel? Oh, best channel, sorry. Best TV to consider in terms of your preference? Now, obviously, it would depend on what you're using it for. Is it for TV consumption? Is it for movies? Is it for gamings, or a combination of sorts? Obviously, the more the high refresh rate also would significantly differ in terms of pricing, becomes more expensive here. So according here to cnet.com, so they have some recommendations. So let's take a look here. So some popular brands you may be familiar already. You have Samsung, LG, TCL, Vizio, and other. Actually, I bought my latest television, Hisense one. It's not the top of the line, in terms of branding, but actually I rarely watch the TV, but my kids watch them, watching YouTubes and whatnots, Netflix and so forth. So for daily consumption, it's not for gaming. So and I like a bigger screen. I think, was it 55 or 60? I think it's 55. So I've improved from a 32-inch to a much bigger, wider screen, and I tend to like a wider real estate, similar to watching movies in the movie theaters here. But anyway, let's take a look here in terms of its recommendations here. So it mentions here, for 2023, the best TV is the TCL Series 6, which has the Roku TV built on it. So let's see what's the key features here. Let's wait here. And then for the best high-end TV, it's still the LG OLED C2. Now, if I have the budget and the money to buy the C2, then I would like it. I mean, obviously LG is at the top of their game in terms of offering uh, OLED, exceptional OLED screen, but obviously you have to pay a pretty hefty amount of money to be able to afford it. That's why I was looking for other brands that would approximate similar to Close One, because I think, this is just my opinion, that moving forward, it should be that the all technologies for monitors or television sets should have a touchscreen capability. I think that should be the common norm, because in our smartphones, in our laptops, uh, tablets, we're used to the touchscreen functionality, and that should be included already with our television. And obviously, would it make sense in a large screen when you're flipping up and down when you're browsing something? Obviously, you still have the remote to rely on, and maybe you can use AI technology, voice command, to be able to say, television, move, switch to Netflix, and search for action movie, something like that. But that's way way up beyond. But let's see here. Now for budget TV or smart TV, the best selection in mentioned here is TCL for And then for best high-end non-OLED, so you have Samsung's QN90B. Actually, I forgot which channel was it. Is it FOMO? I think there's a YouTube channel who focuses primarily on television sets. If you're interested, I think we should check it out. Wait here. Let me check it out. If it's FOMO, is it FOMO? Channel. Stop the FOMO. Yeah, that's it. So it's stop the FOMO. So let me crap. Where is it? There you go. Yeah, it's this channel. If you're interested in in learning more about television sets, whether it's OLED, QLED, whatever the technology is, this is the guy to go to. And I found it funny that his channel's name is Stop the FOMO. Fear of missing out is the term of FOMO. I didn't know, and I only found out when I watched his channel here. So again, going back to the television sets here, and then for best TV runner up, you have the Hisense U8H. Actually, I was considering buying this one, but it wasn't available here in our market. And you can see here it's roughly around $850, so around 50,000 pesos. And I think the one I bought is 20,000 cheaper. So it depends on your preferences here. And obviously the technology, the OLED, the QLED technology from different brands trying to confuse you which one is better. And I think I remember in the earlier days you have the LED, LCD, and then you have plasma TV. And obviously burn in is an issue for many of the latest technology. So should you buy this type of technology? I don't know. I mean, for me, in terms of brand recognition, what I want is a reliable TV that has crisp color accuracy, and it can do multiple things, whether it's watching for regular TV content, online TVs, movies, playing games, maybe. And I like a large screen. That's why, obviously you pay a heftier amount if you're looking for a larger TV set here. Let's see here what else. So it mentions the TCL6 is the best TV here. They have sizes of 55, 65, 75, and 85 inch. Now again, larger is better, but again, it depends on how far your television is going to be in relation to your couch or your sofa here. If it's just too close, I think it won't be too practical because you cannot see the entire periphery of your television if it's too big. If it's too small, you have to squint and come closer, then that would be too narrow. I think they have a table for that one in terms of how far you have to be and what's the ideal size of your television here. Now, the TCL6, as mentioned earlier, has a 4K resolution and HDMI port. So it depends on your preferences, on what you're using it for. If you're plugging in different devices, let's say gaming devices, your I don't know if LCD player or audio player is still popular nowadays. Would be the key here. But QLED is still the preferred one. Actually, a mini LED is the one that they're using for the TCL6 series here. So it's the editor's choice for the CNET, what do you call this? CNET website here. Now, obviously, TV is just one aspect of the equation. You have to buy a separate sound bar or maybe a surround speaker so that you can maximize the enjoyment here. But I mean, for me, I like simplicity, just a simple sound bar that you can hear clearly. I think it's more than a plenty, in my opinion here. Anyway, let's see. You have the LG OLED C2. So if you're interested in that one, they have more options here from as small as 42 inch to 48, 55, 65, 77, all the way to 83 inches. It's OLED technology, 4K resolution, and it has 4 HDMI ports as well. Now, the TCL4 series, on the other hand, has only 3 HDMI ports, which is still 4K resolution. So I think having 4K resolution is important, but obviously the problem you have to contend with is the content that you're watching is able to churn out 4K content. Now, obviously in YouTube they have this ability, but it's going to eat a lot of your bit rates in terms of your data. If you're using unlimited data, should be able to cope with that, or maybe you have a Blu-ray player that has 4K capability, then I think you can maximize it. And then you have the Hisense U8H, as mentioned, has only three options for sizes: 55, 65, and 75-inch, using only LED with local dimming technology. And it has Android TV and still 4K, and has four HDMI ports. So again, I think you have a plethora of choices here. So you just have to look in terms of the size that you're looking for, how much is your budget, and what are you using for. Obviously, the higher amount that you can afford, go for the top tier brands. I think you can never go wrong. But the question is, should you buy the latest one, or maybe you should consider an older generation that can do the same job as what the companies are trying to manufacture or sell you, that whatever they're selling this current year model, that it's better than their previous one. If you watch the channel, as mentioned, Stop the FOMO, it's not that big of a difference, because obviously they can only iterate so much with the technology. So I could be wrong, but that's what I did when I made that latest purchase here. But moving forward, if I'm going to consider buy a new TV set, maybe the LG would be at the top, or unless something else comes along, maybe. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you for staying late. Uh, it happens. Trying to find a regular schedule for this show, but it is what it is. You just have to make do with what you have. Anyway, if you have any question with regards to any of the topics discussed, leave your comments down below, and I'll try to get back to you. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Okay. Wait.